Howdy, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, non-binary finies, and hellions of all walks of life. My name is Javante. Oh no!
Oh, how dare it
Oh.
say I'm muted. I'm not muted now. And you should be good to go.
Howdy, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, non-binary finies, and hellions of all walks of life. My name is Javante. I'm often a DM on my own channel, but I am super, super, super excited to be back, being DM'd by who has become one of my favorite dungeon masters and grid masters of all time, Ark. I get to play Power Rangers again.
Yeah, you get to come back playing your own Arcanite here on Morphing
Yeah,
Multiverse.
yeah, it's
So this
awesome.
this is the second Arcanite to appear in Morphin Multiverse. And again, even though I may have been muted, the captions were there. Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode of Morphin Multiverse. I am your Gridmaster Arc or Arc like Gort. This is episode 3, Form or Function, featuring Javante playing Dior, the Black Arcanite Ranger. Now that I am not muted, uh, tonight we will be diving into very in-depth lore. So there may not be much combat that takes place in tonight's episode, but I promise you there's a lot of really amazing storytelling elements and important tidbits of information to pay attention to for future episodes here on Morphin Multiverse. And with that, we'll jump into tonight's episode with our beginning. As light moves through the cosmos, through space, through time, through parallel universes, outstanding dimensions, places in which have only been seen by those gifted enough or outside of their cognitive spectrum of the world to get to witness some of these moments. And as we're passing these fractalized scenes of rangers fighting monsters, Zords facing off against one another, rangers finding themselves morphing for the first time, the spectrum from the morphing grid folds over. And as our view cascades through the Black Ranger spectrum, purples and hues of like deep, deep black, comes to a stop, surrounded in darkness. Before we see the outline of a door with light from the outside peering beneath the frame and through the sides of it. And as it opens, a hand reaches out and a series of lights turn on overhead. We find ourselves in an R&D department of Cranston Industries, somewhere in the time of 2044, 2045, uh, and a person not too unfamiliar to those viewing this space. Dior, what do you look like now, 20 years later?
20 years later, Dior hasn't so much like filled out muscle wise as it kind of seems most of him is just kind of grown into itself. Um, there's a few new attachments now. He has a few tattoos that go up his left arm. Uh, for those that watched Arcanites, they are the Arcanite symbols that he just has looping up as a sleeve, including the all of the what the morph was based around, looping up into a shield at the shoulder. Um, his dreadlocks are a little bit longer, then he has them tied back in a black bandana. He's wearing glasses, though the lenses are punched out. They just kind of seem to be in a mirror to Billy. Um, Probably less metal themed shirts, though they still have a uh, a little throwback to the older days. So still maybe like a Metallica symbol shown somewhere, and he has a necklace that has a Cerberus on it at the front.
I'm thinking like the lab coat in this room has like pins of the different bands on it instead of wearing the actual band tees.
Yeah, my battle vest is my lab coat.
Yes. Oh, I love that line just by itself. My battle vest is my lab coat. And it's as Dior is entering into his personal office, his personal laboratory here within Cranston Industries. The door closes behind you on the automated system that it is set to, and for a moment, it sounds mechanical, but the pads and steps across the like linoleum flooring sound more organic as a uh, Doberman comes walking out from around one of the tables. Black bandana tied around the neck, the bundled knot in the front that has the like name tag or dog tag hanging off the front of it with a similar Cerberus pendant behind that. Uh, we see Chiron in his new near organic, not entirely, but near organic facsimile. His body as he approaches and just kind of looks and turns towards you, like head is cocked for a second, and then raises a paw up to his throat.
Quick look around, give a nod.
All right. Well, it seems that everything that we were running last night is affirmative. Everything seems to be working exactly as intended,
Huh.
but that's also just as worrying.
What? Nothing's going wrong.
Yes.
It's no bugs, no codes, nothing's firing up. Yeah, that normally means that something's going to happen. Uh, one sec, bud. And he'll place a hand onto his forearm and press a button and like drag out as the shimmer around his face and arms fades to reveal the cybernetic implements and just brings up a screen and like throws it to the side so that he can view it from a much larger angle.
Uh, Looking over what is currently there, coded in coded in a language that you, Professor Cranston, and Chiron are the only three, at least within this division of Cranston Industries, can read, being written in Eltarian. We see the layout of a Phantom Ranger. We see the Power Ruby that was separated from their armor. The image that's initially shown is exactly of that, just an overview shot of this Phantom Ranger's form laying on a table, and then to the left of them on a separate table but almost condensed down is a glass fixture that's holding this power ruby in place. Then the viewing shifts. Instead of it being normal visual acuity, there's now a level of sight that you are aware of, that Chiron is aware of, and that Dr. Cranston would probably need to put on one of his other sets of glasses to really see. But we see a tether of morphing grid energy from the ruby to the open socket in the center chest of the Phantom Ranger on the table. For those watching very early on into the Arkanites series, which you could find on YouTube, the Arkanites had discovered a Phantom Ranger that was captured by the United States military in Area 52. That Dior had grabbed the Power Ruby from. and had a vision, several visions, multiple times. But the body was still left in Area 52. This is now 20 years later. Cranston Industries has somehow gotten access to it, and you are the person spearheading or leading the front in the R&D division over what happened, what exactly is going on. And it's seeing the tether connecting the two that Chiron looks to you and goes, for as long as it's been separated, you would think that the tether would be gone.
Maybe that's only how it works for those that have the typical connection to the morphing grid.
Yes.
Technically speaking, a Phantom Ranger would have a much more intrinsic and... He looks over at Chiron and kind of gestures to myself. I guess familiar to us connection?
But even then, if I disconnected from this form, then this form would no longer gesticulate. If you were removed from your form, it would no longer. But there's something still, and even like the raised paw, it looks as if he's directly pointing to that connection. And it's like there still seems to be form to the function, or function to the form.
I wonder... He'll kind of shift some of the screens around to where if we can get like some of the recording of where we had stored that ruby initially when we had taken it back to the Arcanite's location. Just do you run a simulation and see if that's still happening?
Give me a morphing grid tech roll.
I got that leveled.
What is it now? Just like auto crit at this point?
It's essentially. I don't think I can roll anything like below a 12 now.
It's just I win if I make you roll Morphing Grid Tech. Got it.
Yep, but I'll roll anyway to see. So let's go. Roll. Oh yeah, it's also because I get advantage on it. It's because it's Morphing Grid Tech, which is my favorite thing. Anyways, that's a third. That's a 23.
Okay. Not in the 50s yet, but we'll see. It might get there later. Looking at old archival footage of the storage of the Power Ruby within the Arcanium Plexus, you can see that there is like the smallest tether line that was still reaching out from it. The only time that you saw it interact differently was when Wally walked past it. It would like surge, but then once it connected would immediately withdraw away, like no, this was the wrong person. Or when you walked past it and you are looking at the dates in each of these archival points, each one of those dates is familiar in a traumatic response level of familiar. After seeing the tether reach out to you and maintain a connection to you for a small period of time, those were some of the same days that you had visions of the space in between. You heard Zordon speaking in your head. You heard the third voice in your head that never gave a name or an identity the day Peter tried to take the grimoire. Like each one of these interactions is starting to like, oh, wait a second.
Aaron, I have a theory. Let me bounce it off of you real quick.
Okay.
What if it's a what if it's a self-heal to a trauma response? An automated system designed to, or I guess for this sense, an automated system designed to supplant a trauma response to allow the inhabitor to heal and then go back.
I think that would be antithetical to what the morphing grid itself is. It's not a response. It doesn't convert trauma. It doesn't convert negative energy. It just exudes positive.
But if it exudes positive, what if it detects negative? What would it do?
It combats it.
Like white blood cells to bacteria.
In a sense, this is more of the bacteria within one's stomach. If improperly balanced, would cause detrimental harm to the body. But if one ingests something that would be detrimental, these are the first things to fight against it, remove it. There's the grid plays balance, but achieves balance through increased energy of positive.
Say this Phantom Ranger sent by the grid, he going
Yeah.
by air quotes there, sent by the grid, comes here for the mission, dies. But that energy is still active. Now it is on a place and a era where we are essentially combating all negative. How would it respond?
Become a neutral force.
Mm.
It lose its charge. The energy's already been diverted to other places. It would no longer see or need the necessity of outstretched energy without return input or output.
Unless unless it found a new microbiome.
Or was interrupted.
Mm.
Like a transistor. The channel's still open, but is being stopped from completing the circuit.
Do we know where this crystal right now is? Like
It's
genuinely.
it's in the room with that Phantom Ranger. It is towards the back of this laboratory. You
Mhm.
know exactly the location of it. If anyone else were to walk into here, they'd have no idea that behind this old looking bookshelf that definitely
Yeah.
doesn't fit into this very
Mhm.
sterile laboratory
Yeah.
area, that this Phantom Ranger and this Ruby are behind that.
I feel like I need to do hands-on study with this thing.
Well, we're the only ones who have access other than Professor Cranston.
Yeah, but it feels like a terrible idea.
We've made worse decisions.
Oh, I'm aware. Me knowing that it's a terrible idea is not stopping me from doing it. As I'm making my way to the bookshelf,
Chiron
it's like
was
this
already
right.
like two pats ahead of
Yep.
you. As soon as you started thinking about going hands on, he was already like, all right, well, here we go.
How of the I know I'm not supposed to ask and try to figure out how they're doing, but the rest of the Arcanites.
Everyone else seems fine. There hasn't been any call to action. Peter is Peter.
Yeah.
Um, but the others are living.
We probably should arrange a get together at some point as I'm like sliding one of the books out.
I think Marcia might be the hardest one. She's
Yeah.
currently in the year 3014. But I'm sure we can get a message back.
Yeah, at some point. Right now, I am too busy as I'm like hitting a button.
The the bookshelves pull out towards you and then fold open. Uh, Borrowing, air quotes, some of the extra dimensional space sigils from the Arcanium plexus that,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, Philo just had sitting on a piece of paper around because Flamel made sure that the command center and the power chamber connected to the Arcanium plexus. So we got to make sure all of these things connect when I need the. It's for safety. It makes you didn't want anybody else knowing how to do this, and you just took the
Yeah.
papers.
Yeah. This is mine now.
We don't need extra dimensional pocket spaces collapsing in on themselves in Frankie's apartment or anything
Mhm.
of that nature.
Especially in Frankie's apartment.
We do not need that happening anywhere else in the world.
Mhm.
But as it opens up and pulls away, you see this crystalline glass cube, essentially, with a walking platform around the outside of it, underglowed lights and lights from above that are illuminating the space. Inside of the glass cubed area, there is the table that the Phantom Ranger is laying on, the one from Area 52. And then off to its left is that glass fixture that comes up to a point, almost like an obelisk from the ground up, and then affixed to the top is the power ruby itself.
I tap on the side of the cybernetic side of the head to have that lens go over to make sure, like, all right, is it still doing the energy connection?
Uh, Doing so, what's your willpower?
Oh, good.
At
I
level
hate that
20.
question.
At level 20,
That's a
what is your
oh at
willpower?
level yeah at level 20, my willpower, um, it is 22 because it connected to my smarts.
Awesome. So, first thing you notice is that yes, there is a tether between the Power Ruby and the Phantom Ranger's body on the table. With a 22, you also see an exactly same sized tether from the Power Ruby now reaching through the glass. It's moving slow. Fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional physics and theory of light travel and all of those fun things.
Mhm.
The refractionary point of travel of light from that ruby to you
Mm.
is 10 to the negative seventh power of the speed of light.
Mm.
It's like watching cold molasses fall off the side of a table. Like it's dragging, but it is still moving. That without that lens, you'd have no idea this was happening. But you can see it's starting to pass through the glass in front of you towards you.
Let's take like a little sidestep. That's fascinating.
Yeah, especially since there shouldn't be any energy that can get past. And as your vision sees that tether of energy hit the glass that
Mm.
separates the two of you, it then pulls back to the ruby at the speed of light.
Huh. Alrighty then. That's fascinating and a little sad.
Well, we wanted to make sure that nobody could try and amplify anything in there, and if anything tried to come out of there, its energy couldn't pass through here.
I I get the safety precautions. I helped design that. It's just I don't know. Something about that made me feel a little sad. All right. Like seeming to think about how I want to proceed with doing this. Chiron, Frankie and Peter would make terrible decisions on what to do with this thing.
Uh, are you asking for exact calculations or a yes or no answer?
I'm asking for your opinion, buddy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they would. They probably wouldn't have even put the glass up,
Yeah.
and
I'm just gonna head over.
that wouldn't be a table. That'd be a
Hmm.
desk.
Hmm. Yeah, it'd probably be the same one that they took from the teacher's class, and I'm gonna head over to the computer and start like looking at the safety precautions. However, how do we learn the most from science?
Again, are you asking for exact, or are you asking for an
The
opinion?
greatest creations we've learned from science come from taking drastic, often stupid decision making.
And you're gonna make a stupid decision right now,
I
aren't
feel
you?
like I'm gonna make a very stupid decision right now, and I just need you to know that I am making that stupid decision.
Okay.
However, I'm giving you a slight bit of command here. I've sent a code over to you. If stuff seems to be drastically going wrong, I need you to hit that code so that the glass wall goes back up.
Okay.
And with that, I'm going to just hit the button as I've been typing on the computer to lower the glass wall.
The cube itself, the top portion of it raises up to the roof. The four panels around the outside slide down between that walkway and the space that the table and the obelisk occupy. Drops all the way down into the floor before we see like small metal covers go over each area that the panes dropped into. What are you doing?
I will step essentially from where that safety measure was. I'm going to step towards first the Phantom Ranger body just to
Okay.
examine it a bit closer.
Okay. Uh, yeah, again, give me another Morphing Grid tech roll.
Do 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 do.
Was it 74?
So I can only I'm only able to roll a d12 with this, but also the d20. Uh, so in any ways, that's a 32.
Yeah, sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah.
you start with 2 story points.
Mm,
As this is a one-on-one session, you do have 2
mhm.
story points to spend. If you crit, like you just did, you
Yeah.
get a story point. So
Hey,
you're at 3.
let's go.
So with a 32,
Mhm.
examining the Phantom Ranger that is in front of you, are you still operating with the visual acuity of the connection between the
Oh
power
yeah, I'm
body and
not.
them?
Oh yeah, I'm not cutting that off.
Okay.
That seems like an absolutely terrible idea. That's not conducive to me.
Observing the Phantom Ranger on within that safety precaution level,
Mhm.
the one eye that is perceiving them, the armor is not black and gray.
Mm.
The armor is entirely white, and the gray parts of the armor, which would be like the accent pieces to it,
Mm.
are the most splendid sheens of gold you've ever seen before. Whereas
Oh
your
boy.
other eye, looking over, all black, the
Mm.
silver markings on the body, with the 32 Morphing
Mhm.
Grid tech. The power ruby that is reaching out
Mhm.
mutated seems like the only correct word.
Mm.
That was at one point in time the heart of this being.
Mm.
And their connection to the morphing grid was initially that of the white spectrum of the morphing grid.
Oh boy.
Something happened to this Phantom Ranger. You don't know exactly when, you couldn't even guesstimate when this could have occurred or what caused it to happen. Um, but it is essentially killed the connection with the morphing grid and this entity. Not just severed, not just stole their powers, it killed that power within this ranger and thus was brought back by the morphing grid. But now it is just a phantom. Like is a
Mhm.
ghost of what they once were. You don't know if this form that you're seeing from human vision is was adapted by the morphing grid or was adapted by them in response to this, or if this came from that death itself.
Mm. Chiron, this is fascinating.
Chiron is not in the room.
It's like slow blink. Oh, I made a mistake. Breathe out and turn around.
You turn around to an entire expanse of absolute white.
um. Okay. This is slightly different.
The floor you were standing on is still the size of the space that this examination and holding area was. Everything past that, the walls gone, the roof gone. It is both endless and claustrophobic at the same time because you don't know where it ends or where it begins, where it starts, where you don't know if you step off of the platform you're standing on, if you're going to fall into infinite, ends.
Um. Okay. Uh. I'm really hoping that this is not uh, either a virus or a bug in my programming. Um. Hello?
You hear the. You simultaneously hear nothing and hear the vast echoing of your own voice at the same time.
Oh, crap. Okay. Like,
Is your
I'm.
cybernetic vision still tuned to view the morphing grid?
Yes.
Yes. Now looking around, there, it's an old second nature to actively bypass what you see from this side.
Mhm.
Unless it's strange shit like this, and then you remind yourself, I've got an eye that can see the strange shit, and then start
Yeah.
focusing on what you can see from there.
Yep.
You are seeing facets, glimmers, connections, threads, weaves of every spectrum of the morphing grid throughout this expansive space, while
Oh.
simultaneously only seeing endless nothingness and nothing but white around everything else.
Okay. I'm just gonna hit the other side just to have it go all the way over. So it's like, you know what? I don't like that. We're gonna just see the all of everything.
There's a haptic that you had upgraded that can
Mhm.
duplicate vision to your natural human eye of what you are seeing through the cybernetic one. So now you are viewing, and you are probably the only living entity, by whatever definition you want to give that,
Mhm.
to see what is known as the space in between, or the point of refraction, where the first light connected with solarite and then splintered off to become the morphing grid. This is that exact moment in time, space, depth, gravity, to the seventh dimension of where white light becomes all of the other colors in a crystal. You are in that microcosm of a space, seeing all that is the morphing grid, was the morphing grid, will be the morphing grid at once.
Oh boy. This is fascinating. Ooh, dude, no, stop. Thinking about how cool this is for a second. Orient yourself. Why are you here? Okay. A Phantom Ranger Ruby. It naturally would have a connection to this. So why do I have that connection right now? Why am I here? Um, I'm gonna like reach my hand towards where I can see the black spectrum.
Where it is all and
That's
everywhere. It is like
fair.
where you are seeing the Black Ranger spectrum, you're also seeing crossovers of red,
Mm,
of pink, of blue, of or like you are literally in the multi the
yeah,
multi kaleidoscopic view of every color of ranger power from the spectrum simultaneously.
that's fair. All right, well, maybe I can try something.
Are you looking for like an anchor point? Are you looking for
I th-
somewhere to like this is
yeah,
where
like
I am and this is where I'm going to
yeah.
start
Let me
understanding?
find myself set down here to where things, I guess, are less revolutioned.
That that point would be in that standing area where the body of the Phantom Ranger is, where that power ruby is, that still has the floor plating of
Mm,
the lab there. That has not changed. That is still a fixed point and is not turned on its ass, tie
yeah,
dyed, and kaleidoscoped.
I'll finding myself there. I'm just going to look around again and um. All right, I'm here. Dior designation D10R. Cerberus Arcanite. Former Arcanite. I think I still technically am. What do you want? Just kind of like looking around.
As you're looking around, you see the entity on the table. Now, with both of your eyes seeing the same line of vision, they're no longer in the all black with the gray. They're now in the all white with the gold accents to it. You see them sit up off the table.
Oh boy.
And then swing one leg and then the other off of the side, still holding on to the edge of it.
Hey, take it slow. You're still. I mean, I guess technically this is happening in this interspatial reality. But I don't know if you're still good.
Reaches a hand towards the power ruby.
Is that what you? I'll like place my hand on it just to slightly kind of guide it over towards the hand, his hand or their hand, I guess.
You grab it and then place it in the hollowed socket in the center of their armor. And as they do, you then hear like a breath come out of the helmet. The chest finally like in and then down.
That's incredible.
Lamont,
I'm not used to hearing my name or hearing people that don't know my name know my name.
I've been with you for quite some time. I know you. And not just from this. As they look around, and you could see the reflection off of the visor. It's like everything then lines up into the spectrum colors correctly off of his visor, looking at it from there. Behind him, still a vast extravaganza of paint stripes and watercolors and laser lights and stained glass just piled
Yeah.
onto each other. But looking at the reflection off of his visor, their symmetry is regathered. There was a time when there were only one of me. And now there are versions of me who find themselves in places that I was meant to go and didn't, or failed. There are, even then, some that find their way here and then become versions of me.
You mean Wally?
I think I've been asleep, captured, and then asleep.
You're not a Phantom Ranger, are you?
Even through the helmet, looking at just body language itself, you can see that there is a disheartened reaction to hearing Phantom Ranger. Yes. Yes, at a time that is who I am.
The would be probably more accurate, wouldn't it?
No. was the Morphonaut. I became
Yeah.
was titled the Phantom Ranger. And again, there's that the shoulders have dropped. The head is still maintaining like a line of sight for conversation, but even that you can feel like the chin is tucked back, the shoulders are down.
We well, I'm sure you know, the Arcanites, we fixed things here. We solved a problem that's been apparently an issue for Rangers for a while.
I'm learning.
We've been well, I've been studying, trying to figure out the whole tether situation.
I mean, this.
Yeah. Its function is unique, which is the thing that I'm fascinated by.
It's my heart
I figured that
in
out.
a
Not
biological sense.
mm, I figured that out after a little bit. It kind of feels obvious now, but
Something is going
it's
to happen.
I hate that word.
Something is going to happen. And I believe that your Arcanites are part of why it's going to happen. In the time you've lived, how much are you aware of the morphing grid?
Um, well, and like the whole shimmer will fully dissolve away just to show the parts implemented. Uh, about as much as I can figure out from these things. I've talked to Zordon and what I think are the Morphing Masters, or at least a semblance of them. I've traveled through to. I didn't realize there were other. I figured the multiverse theory was a theory that I believed in, but I've been to other ones of those that have Rangers, so I work off of the idea that they're similar to radio frequencies.
You're not wrong. Where do you think it started?
I like cross my arms a little.
The Morphing
I mean,
Masters, the Rangers.
if you asked me where the grid started, I would. It's kind of like asking me when the universe started. I kind of feel like it's just existed, in the sense of its energy.
12 to the 13,836 exponent light years is when the universe started. An interval of -1 to that is when the morphing grid began. I asked you if you knew when the morphing masters became morphing masters, when accessing the morphing grid occurred.
That I would not know. That's unique to me and something that I'm trying to study, but that's a little harder to get information from
Do
when
you
you're
want
stuck
to
here.
see?
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah.
The figure stands off of the table and begins walking just past you until he's beyond the metal grates of the floor, now standing in the endless Lisa Frank painted, neon colored background. and suddenly a stone archway forms. It comes together almost to a triangular point, but just before the top, it rounds almost like an omega symbol at the
Mm.
top before reconnecting to the left and right side.
Oh.
Take me to 0117 in the Alpha universe.
Oh, this is gonna be hard to explain.
All of the color in this space pulls between those stone arches. And now there's this veil of prismatic energy colorations just flowing back and forth, back and forth. Come.
I'm following. I mean, you dropped some knowledge on me that is going to take a little bit to explain to folks.
No, it'll make sense.
It makes sense to you and me and people that are attached to this stuff, but you also just told me when the universe started.
It could be quantified at any point in time, but people don't want that answer. Because then you know when zero started.
Wow, I've never really encountered somebody that thinks like me, other than Chiron.
I was a scientist.
Oh, we have something in common.
A lot more than you might think. He steps through that archway.
And I will follow.
As you step through one of the master arches, what would Dior's first response to hearing that they were going to step onto a planet that's designation was 4 numbers and a galaxy title that he has no idea what it means by any margin of information?
Excited shock.
Is he holding his breath? Is he preparing for the absolute worst? Is he just like, this is an ayahuasca dream?
I think his whole body is like, oh, camera. I think his whole body is like violently tensed because expectation of also how it felt to be teleported. So just like violent tensing, but also a very excited smile, like, ha, ha.
There is no identifying feeling to this walkthrough. There is nothing that could be compared to it. Traveling at the speed of light through teleportation, through the various teleportation systems that are used by Cranston Industries, by the Power Rangers, none of them have the steadiness, have the full control over one's body when doing so
Mm.
that this does. It felt like you walked through a thin veiled waterfall, essentially. Moving from a microcosm pocket universe, some quintillions by factors of 10 in time and space, to a planet that seems oddly familiar.
Uh, uh,
There are high growing dense ferns around you, large shrubbery giving some kind of tropical uh, uh, environment, biome feeling to the air around you, to the atmosphere that you're in. The humidity is light enough that you can breathe and you realize you're breathing. So, okay, there's oxygen here. But also just dense enough that there's like every once in a while you're feeling little droplets on your
Mm.
necks and on your arms as you're standing there.
Huh. What planet is this?
This is 0117 in the Alpha Sector.
I'm guessing it didn't gain a name, or
Didn't have one yet.
what would we have called it? It's just familiar to me.
Earth.
Wait, no? I look back over. Wait, huh? What?
I'm regaining knowledge of what I missed while sleeping, but this is the Andromeda Galaxy. This is in the Milky Way. This is the third planet from Sol. This would become or be known as Earth.
This is where it all started?
This is where the first people accessed the morphing grid.
Mm.
You are eons before any record your scientists have of life on this planet.
I was going to say, this is not carboniferous stuff, so I don't know how far back. Well, now I know how far back we are, but oh boy.
You weren't the first. And even we believe that we weren't the first either. Come, I'll show you. And he leads you down a pathway. And it drops down a hill for a moment before climbing another. You're hearing the sounds of what could be birds, but they're not any sounds of any birds' calls that you have recorded, have a database of, have any recollection of existing, but there are bird calls in the air. There are sounds of other creatures moving between the trees and the bushes and along the ground that you have no recollection of ever existing on Earth by any definition whatsoever. Until you are standing at the top of the pathway, looking down at a city nestled into a cove off of a coastline.
You've gotta be kidding me.
3 concentric rings with rings of water in between each one. And in
Like,
the center,
looking around. No, we didn't. Okay, I don't know what to call you.
I am the Morphonaut.
You want me to call you that?
I'd prefer it.
All right, Morphonaut. Is this Angel Grove? Or what would become Angel Grove?
This is a sanctioned part of the land that at one point in your time
Mm-hmm.
would be called Atlantis,
All right, so that's real.
which exists on the westernmost side of the supercontinent that is on planet 0117.
Earth.
This area would fragment away,
Mhm.
becoming North America,
America.
and on this coastline, you would find Angel Grove in your time.
We built our city. Oh, no wonder stuff keeps happening. But Atlantis is real. I mean, I kind of should have guessed that.
In the center of the three rings of civilization that have another three rings in between each one of water, in the center, you see a spire crystal that looks to be somewhere near 12 to 15 stories tall.
All right, I'm going to. Yeah, I'm just gonna take a guess. That's probably where we're going, yeah?
Actually, no. We'll be close to it, but that's not where we're going.
Hmm.
We will go to my lab. And
Oh.
like a fold in space and time, you're no longer standing at the top of this pathway looking down onto the city of Atlantis, the western frontier that would later become Angel Grove. You're now within a lab. The walls of it, similar stone formations or carved from the same stone formations of that archway that you saw in the space in between. But everything within this lab would put the technology in the power chamber considered in the Stone Age.
Again, just the giddiest, like, happiest I've ever been. Just, oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
This was my this was my lab.
You know how much fun I could have in a place like this?
I do.
So many things I could learn, so many questions I could answer.
I felt the same way. You hear a male voice coming from some section of this lab before passing through one of the stone doorways that like shift and then slide. One goes up, one goes down. A fiery mess of like blonde and orange hair, uh, large orange circles that seem either tattooed or painted onto the face that come around the cheekbones and then in a straight line up, making almost like a half moon
Hmm.
around each eye. A set of goggles affixed on the top of the head, a white, looks like a lab coat with like gold and yellow and orange colorations to it, a long black skin suit underneath that the what would be gloves, the finger portions have been removed so they can
Hmm.
interact and feel with whatever it is they're working on, enters into the room.
Points to them, points over to the Morphonaut, points back to them.
That's Chendel, my only friend.
Huh.
You hear Chendel say something, but it's like garbled. Like the letters are mixed incorrectly. The language is off in some way. And then after that, you hear in perfect English. Look, the archway is finished. Like it's done. We can test the archway, but that doesn't mean that you have to be the one that goes through it. We can send probes. We can send visual reclivity devices. You don't have to go inside of it in order for us to prove that this exists. We already know that it's an energy signature. We know that it's something that can power entire planets. We know that it is capable of a great deal of things, but it doesn't mean you need to go and walk into literal energy.
So we're supposed to test it.
You see a version of the Morphonaut walk out of another section, and they're like fixing the tubes that connect to the helmet and securing them, and then readjusting all the rest of the armor that they're wearing. Because it means if it is a place that we can occupy, if it is a point in time and space that we can exist in, then that means that it is an entirely other universe as well as an energy system. It is a place where if we need to evacuate, if we need to protect people, if we need to ensure their safety, we can move them there. The battle can be had here in our universe while they stay safe there. If it's only supplying energy, then their bodies will be safe. Their forms will be fine. It will constantly be both fulfilled and preserved by the energy itself. Shendel responds. So you want to traverse into another universe from a universe we already exist in, leaving a gateway to that universe open so you can what? Prove the other Morphin Masters wrong? Tell them that this is so much more than just energy, so much more than just a power source, that it's living and breathing, that it exists, that it what are you looking to prove? Before this version of the Morphonaut in the past says, Jendal, just open the door. And then everything freezes. Save for you and the Morphonaut you came with.
Oh, that's how you found it.
You can't find something that has existed. You can't discover something that's already lived. You can't prove something that's already true. But I wanted to.
All accounts, Chendal was right. I mean, technically speaking, sending in drones and the like could have done similar.
No. What I did was exactly what the grid needed to happen. What it wanted to happen. So I thought it was my own doing. I believed I was carving my own destiny.
And now?
crowds in again. And you find yourself in that same cacophony of color and light and power and energy. You see a Morphonaut traversing through it. It seems to be unending. It is exactly as I believed it to be. It is a microcosm, a pental universe, somewhere between the fourth and fifth dimension. It is simultaneously at the beginning of time and just past it. I'm not even certain how long I've been in here. It seems still moving as the two of you are watching. You see a pathway filled with this collection of color, this saturation of the spectrum so vibrant, until it comes to absolute darkness. And then a familiar voice to you. Someone has finally found their way within. Bless you. The entity below, a dark specter, peers through the darkness. You will be my way out, child. Chendel closed the gate. Chendel. You are nowhere. You don't exist. You aren't even a fraction of an idea. But you can be the beginning of my plans. A hand reaches out towards him. The Morphonaut jumps back, turns, and pulls some kind of energy blaster from their side. And over the shoulder, every 7 steps is opening fire, racing back towards the gateway, screaming and yelling through some kind of communication device for Chendel to close the gate. Just as that Morphonaut reaches the gate, the hand of Dark Spectre is over the top of them. 3 fingers curled around their body, a thumb at the side, and an index finger poking through the gate. Before the Morphonaut takes his blaster, points it at the crystal in his chest, and fires. A massive explosion of color, of energy, of power detonates. The side within the morphing grid that the Master Arch was visible through is destroyed. Something closed off. And everything stops again.
That explains a few things.
I was in here for no more than 7 seconds. escaped. Or a portion of him did.
Yeah. Yeah, we know.
No. He did escape again.
Oh.
I stayed sealed in here for, God, almost 700 years.
In this, like looking around at the vibrancy of colors.
With Dark Specter's hand wrapped around his body, this explosion of color coming off of his body.
You stayed locked in this.
Exactly 584 years. Planet side.
Oh.
And Chandril found himself infected by what escaped that day. And went on to infect others. A great deal of others. They began attacking all of 0117. The entire time I was locked away. Made it a point to destroy several of the other arches on our planet. This is much longer than I had anticipated. Let me show you what I mean. And everything folds in again.
Yeah.
You're back in the Frontier Lab, where the Master Arch was. You see several humanoid, well, obviously humanoid, since you know that this is Earth, figures doing battle with more physical versions of the Spectre Wraiths that you and the Arcanites had fought about 20 years ago. These are all very much so full embodiments of darkness, of evil, of repressed anger and hatred in demonic forms. And you can see that most of them are wearing similar clothing to what Chandril was wearing. The outfits of Morphin Masters, of those who access the energy beyond the planet,
That makes sense. Yep.
of other Atlanteans, turned into these monsters. But then you see several rangers fighting. You see the Morphinaut fighting alongside them. But there's tendrils of darkness coming off of the rangers before they all coalesce around one. And as it's getting ready to take hold of this ranger and turn it into one of these demons, the Morphinaut moves, wraps his arms around that person, and something is said, but you can't hear it over the cacophony of battle that's happening. And all of that dark energy, instead of latching onto this ranger, latches onto the Morphinite. His white armor burned black, the gold ashened to silver. The clear crystal that was once in the center of the chest, now a bright, burning red.
Oh no.
It all stops. I would hate to say that history repeats itself. But I would be lying if I said that this coincidence is far too constant.
We're scientists. We get curious.
I believed that. I haven't believed it in a long time.
I'm not tied to this hamster wheel that you're talking about with destiny or fate.
Aren't you?
No.
Prove it.
Place my hand against the side of my head. Chiron. Chiron, activate the code, buddy. I really don't want to have to do that.
Do what?
All right, so let's ask a question as scientists, like placing my fist against my hand as if it's like prepping to do a shift. What do you want?
I don't have wants.
What does the grid want?
For life to live. For balance.
What does that mean for this situation right now?
You've seen a situation like this before.
Yeah. And we fixed it.
Do you want to see what happens when you fix it?
Or enlighten me.
His hand turns and opens, and the moments start playing through. You see what was once the Morphonaut, now this darkened, visceral, and malicious version, begin attacking these first Rangers. There is moments that you recognize where he is actively trying not to kill them, even though everything else in him is screaming to do so. And instead of shooting or stabbing or beating them into submission, every energy shot from the Phantom Ranger's laser connected with the morphers of each one of those Rangers, breaking them, leaving exposed solarite out of each one of the morphers. It speeds up slightly. You can hear rapid conversations, like very quickly paced, as if they're being had in very small sections of time, until finally it gets to a point where the several gathered Rangers with broken morphers are facing off against the Phantom Ranger. And you can see the essence of Dark Spectre starting to build and blossom out of his form, smoke becoming physical. Those rangers take the broken pieces of solarite from their morphers and plunge them into their chests. One screaming of loyalty, another screaming of hope, one of love, one of temperance, one of intelligence, creativity, passion, as their entire forms are enveloped in the separate spectrums of the morphing grid, as their bodies then cascade through the appearances of rangers who would soon be or could exist, as they all then cleanse away Dark Specter's power from the Morphonaut. But they can't cleanse the burning. They look over their own forms, now constantly transitioning and shifting from Mighty Morphin Rangers to SPD to Mystic Force to Turbo to even Rangers that you have no categoric identities of, but each one of the specific Ranger color that they represent, before they all gather around the now Phantom Ranger and fold time and fold space and gravity over and over and over again until they are in the space in between. They kept the names, or their titles, what they called us. They are Morphing Masters. Because of that instance, 10,000 years from this moment, I am sent to Eltar, and I meet Zordon and Zorfram, centuries of the Eltarian Guardians, and I help them. Zofram finds a Zeo crystal and attempts to use it to gain power to overthrow the Eltarian elders. It flays his body. Zordon finds him and puts him on life support, an exoskeletal structure to keep his muscles and his body still in some kind of shape, a helmet to protect his lidless eyes. Zordon sent me to save a little girl whose mother was trying to have her purified by the morphing grid so that her father couldn't turn her over to Dark Specter to become a vessel. The Pandora bloodline possesses some of the most powerful sorcerers, and Rita deserved a lot better. I made sure that she was bathed in the light of the morphing grid, but lost her mother in that fight. I was sent there by them, by the grid.
And what is your plan then? Or this idea you have?
What is form without function?
An idea without purpose. It's flawed.
What is a function without form?
An execution without any variables. A flaw.
A theory without experimentation. An idea based on opinions instead of facts. How is the morphing grid to maintain a balance?
It needs both form and function. It needs to be able to see things from the perspective of not just opinions, but also not just theoretical prospects.
And you can't just provide a light without not taking into account the shadow it would cast. I ask you, Lamont, designation 10 rebirth, Dior, Arcanite, Power Ranger. Do you hate me?
No.
I released Dark Spectre. I provided the tools that led to Lord Zed's creation. I did not protect Rita well enough that she would not be taken. And yet she still became the entity she did.
There's, in our world, in our time, there is a brilliant, if disturbed man named Robert J. Oppenheimer, who without him, the creation of the atom bomb would be essentially impossible. Theories and ideas. His calculations resulted in the deaths of millions, and still do in some sense. I don't hate him. We can reflect on his actions, point out their flaws, point out the problem with both form and function. I harbor no hatred for him. I don't harbor hatred for Peter, the man who killed me. I don't hate you. You who didn't know of the thing you were going to do. Why would I?
And now, with this knowledge, I ask that you don't hate yourself or the other Arcanites. You were given great power from the morphing grid, an immense amount of light that would then create an immense shadow.
You're alluding to something. You haven't quite told me what. What did we do?
Would you rather I show you?
Yeah, I would.
You watch his hand turn. Eons of time move over this city that you see a great flood, you see asteroids, you see dinosaurs, you see the passage of time at a greater, more magnificent scale than could ever possibly be generated in any other way. Leading to the bad universe, where Peter became the Draconic Overlord, where he raised his castle, strangely enough, over the same spot that obelisk of Zeo Crystal would have been in Atlantis, here in Angel Grove. You then see the final battle that you all had against the Draconic Overlord in this universe. The version of you that became entire interface. It gave up their humanity to protect humanity. You see the older version of Marcia holding this giant cannon created through your own cybernetic extensions, as all of the Arcanites, old and new, held down a Draconic Overlord as this cannon engaged and then fired. And there was a moment in the light where you all saw the Morphin Mother, your gathered collective idolatry of the Morphin Masters as a singular entity, as a maternal figure of all of the Morphin Masters coalesced into one form. She reaches out to you, and a version of you comes into existence with none of the cybernetic attachments, entirely human. The version of Peter that never got into that car accident, that never got turned to darkness. A version of Wally that grew up in Angel Grove, joined the Arcanites. A version of Frankie who was led into the power chamber by his own uncle. A version of Marcia who finds out her mom is not going to meetings in this timeline, but in one's about 1,000 years in the future. There's a happiness. There's a what was missing was fixed. And a Zeo crystal that wasn't from that universe created a new one, where all of those people live. And you, still cybernetic, still connected to the grid in more ways than just being a ranger. Peter, who can still call on the Oathbreaker armor, who can wield both Caliburn and Excalibur. Frankie, who never really got to say goodbye to Rowan. You still won. But you all were hoping to come back happier, to come back fulfilled, to come back to a better universe. With a little bit of solarite and all of the morphing grid energy you had. You created a fracture. You created an entire universe that its beginning point was the day you all returned from defeating the Draconic Overlord. Is the exact ending of Arcanites. Where Tommy Oliver wasn't dead. Where Wally wasn't from a separate universe. Where Peter never went evil or even had a proclivity by any means to become evil. Where you never got into the car accident.
This. What? We made this?
What would you give to know that this happened?
I don't have a lot left to give, but anything.
And in your heart, this is what you wanted. This is what all of you collectively wanted.
A happy ending. A happy ending. Who wouldn't want this?
You wanted life to live.
Yeah.
Now, with all of that light, how big of a shadow do you think is being cast right now?
What did we make?
It's not what you made. It's what you changed without knowing you changed it. The Morphing Masters see over every universe, every collection of consciousness, of life living. They are the caretakers of. There was one Morphin Master. His name was Praetor. When they became the Morphing Masters, they realized exactly what power Solarite has, what the first crystal is capable of, and that this all comes to be because light passes and light continues. Now imagine if this spectrum went through another crystal, another piece of solarite, expounding on itself. That idea of exponential energy and ad infinitum to continue. A planet made entirely of solarite was found. In order to protect the balance of life, that planet needed to be sealed away in a universe that would no longer exist, in a place that would never be, and to ensure that it was sealed off, a Morphin Master had to go with it. And Praetor volunteered himself. A true sacrifice of self for the greatest of good, for the greatest of life. You all created a universe where there are no Morphin Masters watching over it. Where there is just endless energy flowing.
Oh. Oh no. Oh.
And so, we do what we must to ensure the balance of the grid, the balance of life. Puts a hand on your shoulder, touching you for the first time. And there is a weight of eons worth of wisdom, of experience, of pain, of happiness, of sorrow, and of love you can feel in just that simple contact. And before you become me, it's important that you see what happens when the light becomes too strong. A flash goes over your vision as you watch Peter fighting off the Chimera in his current physical form. The Peter that you have been keeping tabs on and are aware of the location of the Hyper Dragon Zord and its location in the outskirts of the forests of Angel Grove, where he's training the Proto Rangers. A sky of spell ink raining down on the two of them. The three Proto Rangers are trying their best to help the Red Arcanite Ranger fight off this new powered Chimera that hasn't been seen in 2 decades. And just as he lands the killing blow to the Chimera, a loud and thunderous shot rings through the air as you see a bullet made of morphing grid crystalline energy pierce through Peter's chest, rending and dismantling his connection to the morphing grid. And with the last of the spell ink, he dismisses that power to the 3 Proto Rangers. The line of the bullet travels back, showing you a ranger in silver garb holding a magnum in his hand before being teleported away. The essence of Peter's morphing grid energy collected in a canister, placed within a vault with other rangers that their powers had been reclaimed from. You watch this Silver Ranger then find themselves at another point in time in a separate universe, now in front of Justin Stewart, the 12-year-old boy, Blue Ranger of the Turbo Rangers, having a conversation, telling him that it's okay to wait for your friends, but don't harbor anger for them. You are just as great now as you were with them, and will become greater as time continues. And leaves without needing to collect this boy's power, because the timeline that would have come from his existence and his anger was prevented. A series of rangers being gathered in similar armor to that Silver Ranger, as the tether of the Arcanite's happy ending comes to fruition and that new universe is living on. Frankie's body is shifting from the green energy and wounds through his chest and stomach to the silver energy perfectly fine, not understanding what is going on. Gina is stuck somewhere between Angel Grove and Beacon Point, an island just outside the Pacific Ocean, where she was teaching students and also a group of rangers as a mentor. And her body is shifting back and forth between these two locations, not knowing which one it's supposed to be in. Marcia is confirmed dead in 3014 and simultaneously alive in 2068. It is. There is so much. And you see Wally wearing the Phantom Ranger armor once again.
Oh. So this is the solution.
This is one. The variables are interchangeable.
What if I don't like the solution?
Again, the variables are interchangeable.
I want to fix this.
You can't. But a Morphonaut can.
If I fix this, Peter will be fine.
You fix this, everything will be fine. But you will no longer be what was or what would have become of you.
That might be just a small price.
And what of their lives without you?
I don't really know. He's just kind of gonna crumple, just sit. I would have. I've been working on an idea with Billy about making an academy. It was going to be attached to Angel Grove, a little further out into the ocean. We were going to use the tech to sort of shield it, set up the interspatial gateway, have everyone from all planets and universes be able to come together to learn how to be a ranger properly. It'd have been nice, I think.
There are places where that's happened.
If I do this, will it still?
You could see them.
Variables.
The only constant is you. Currently. And if you're going to do this, you'll need to talk to my mentor.
Huh?
He turns. As you were describing the idea, this Ranger Academy. It was creating itself in the space. They could see the location, all of it. And it all fades back into the endless expanse of the space in between. Now, even with the visual processors, you are not seeing the kaleidoscopes of colors, just the endless white.
I don't like this.
He is more open to emotion than I am. But he will not let you use your emotions as a weakness.
Fair enough.
Then we go to the tower. And you can meet the Arcanaut.
Huh?
The endless white dissipates behind you as you are now walking in the cosmos itself. Stars and darkness, planets, asteroids, moons, nebulous clouds. Until you reach the end. A small speck of light as you get closer and closer. Realize it's swinging, rotating. And as the light passes in front of you, it starts and at first looks just bright white light. But as it passes, there's every color of the spectrum over your body. Again and again.
At the end of the universe, there's a lighthouse.
There's a beacon. Now mind your manners. He has no problem with killing.
Noted.
And that is where we end episode 3.
You bastard.
Of the Morphing Multiverse form or function.
100% this ends with Alone at the End of the Universe humming a tune. It has to. Oh.
Well, just before I kick you out and tell everybody where to find you all over the internet, you know there's always that super cool post-credit scene that everybody loves?
Yeah.
Everybody hangs out for the last few minutes to really like there's definitely a teaser for the next episode. It's always
totally
there. It's always there.
Hi, I'm Javante. Where can you find me on things? Every Thursday you can find me on twitch.tv/eclipse613. I run Set Sail, a One Piece D&D adventure that at one point included RQR. You were my guest character for the first official arc. It was awesome and great. We're coming into arc number 2, so stuff
and not
and
me.
things are happening. Not you. However, if you enjoy more of me on the other side of the DM table and Ark being a player, on bi-weekly Thursdays, Blood and Cinders, where Ark plays Spicy Vampire Boy.
Yeah.
Some shenanigans happened our last session. I hurt our resident dad a lot emotionally our last session.
Oh no.
It's oh boy. Other stuff you can find me doing: House of Dreams. I play Chuki, a black-footed cat veteran character in a Wander Home campaign, which is super special and fun. What else? Oh, Suntide Sensibilities with Paige over on Pluto's Underworld. where I play alongside Ark. We can't escape each other's stratosphere, it seems. It's great. Um,
It's wonderful. I love it.
Jeez. It's honestly great. Other stuff that I'm doing. Hi, I'm working on a TTRPG of my own called Axis Autumn. I keep saying I'm going to release stuff about it, and then I never do because I'm perfectionist when it comes to my own work because that's how I function, apparently. I'm going to release stuff about it, I promise. Um, I have
Don't
some
make me
other
do
things
to you
coming.
what I do to Paige.
I know. I have some other things coming down the pipeline. You can check out my Twitter because I haven't left that hellscape, and my Blue Sky, both under my name of Javante, for any other information that comes up.
Yes. And I have been your Gridmaster, Lighthouse Keeper, Lore Rider, Beacon unto all beacons, Arc or Arc-like Court. You'll find me all over the internet at Arc-like Court. The best way to keep up to date with me and all of the things is, of course, Instagram threads or my community Discord. Uh, every Monday, it's either Morphin Multiverse or the Heritage Collection, my Batman Gotham City Monster of the Week series that I'm doing that features many wonderful actual play performers. We're currently in Chapter 1, which features Shadow Dow, the Ray Wilds, Serenity Cup, and the amazing Pluto Cleric. We can never escape each other's stratospheres, and that's just how it works. We're always going to be in orbit of each other. Again, on Thursdays, you could find me either on my own channel here at twitch.tv/arclightcourt or over on Eclipse 613's channel where I am playing the vampire sad boy. Not really sad boy, just like hot, spicy, hey, cool barbarian named Orm. And yeah, so many super cool things. Rangers of the Ton as well with Javante on Pluto's Underworld, where I am Prince Orazio di Argento, the Howlite Hound Valor Knight, our White Ranger. But with that, we get our post-credit scene. We can hear the waves just outside of Mariner Bay, clashing against the pier, the beach. There is a bench just off the side of the sand where we see a young woman sitting there. A collection of stars in the sky above. It's warm. It's comfortable. They reach into their pocket. They pull something out between their hands and they're mumbling to themselves for a moment before they say, "It's always supposed to be like this." And I'm okay with that. Before they open their hands and we find a morpher, cracked. The faintest glow of gold starts filling the cracks of this morpher. Morphing Multiverse, Episode 4, To Find Faith, featuring Wife-like Court. Wife-like Court will make an appearance in the next episode of Morphing Multiverse, playing her own original character here within the Morphin Multiverse, who is interacting with some of the Morphin Masters, the emissaries, and now quite possibly the new Morphinaut. Who knows? We'll see you guys next time. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful time. And remember, be a beacon.